OuterOrange.
Welcome back, everybody, to my channel. Today we are doing something a little different, as I am actually standing and I am not in my chair for a change, because today we are doing a new thing. It's called Get Triggered! So I asked you guys to tell me your unpopular opinions about Cardfight Vanguard. And I wanted to hear them all, and I heard them all, and now we're gonna talk about them, so let's get triggered and talk about them. Mist says, personally, what made the Vanguard anime great to begin with was lost in overdress due to the price paid for being more mainstream. I have to agree. As a recent watcher of G-era anime, I will definitely agree that, at least in the standpoint of G-era, that the Vanguard anime with overdress is not as great as it was, as there was definitely a decline in like story development, and it just kind of didn't feel as connected as like some older animes did. However, I will say one thing. I definitely think this anime was a little bit better than the V Premium reboot. Don't know how you guys feel about that one in particular. Marco said, I think Luard is overrated. Wow. Where's all the Shadow Paladin people? Where are you guys at? You guys ready for this one? Yeah, Luard is a little overrated. Sorry. I personally, my issue with this is that I haven't had a lot of time with Shadow Paladin. So it's really hard for me to like say it's overrated, but gosh darn it, whenever there's something that comes out with Luard, does the entire fan base just go crazy for it. It's up there with the popular guys. Ian says, you can bring whatever deck you want to bring to a big tournament. You just gotta make sure you know what you're getting into. Collapse for the man. And he's so right, because you can honestly bring whatever you want to bring. You can have fun with tournaments in any shape or form. You just gotta be ready to expect the meta to hit you in the face, and it depends on how you pilot your deck. You can pilot it back. It's totally possible. We got Echo with sign me up on the hot takes. He says, when it comes to new cards, people don't know what they want. One moment it's too much nostalgia, and the next it's Bushiro doesn't support older archetypes, and on the topic of older playstyle, premium is heaven, and the only archetype that sees mainstream success are those people who are willing to play. People have been biased takes on how unsupported their old cards are, when all it takes is a bit of thinking outside the box to make things like Time Weave, Ripple, etc. work in current premium. Good luck, have fun. What a take. What a take. He's pretty much indicating that people get upset about support coming, whether it's good support or bad support, and some people want old archetypes to come back, some people want new archetypes to come back. It seems like people just can't settle on like being happy. It's like no matter what Bushiro releases, people tend to be unhappy, which by the way is an extremely true statement. We always get people, like a card comes out, like the newest thing, people are like, oh my god, it's so bad, or oh my god, it's so good, or oh, why would you bring this back, or why'd you do this? And then all it takes is a little playtesting to figure out if the card's actually worth the time or not, and people usually won't take the time to playtest, and they're just gonna go in and bash the card without even trying or attempting to try like what the card can bring to the formats. Playtest, try out decks, try out new stuff, put it in your premium deck. You won't know the value of a card until you truly see it in action. Next we have Not Super Unpopular by Otakurus, because I have seen in here and there, but personally I enjoy getting hit by an overtrigger a lot more than getting hit by a double crit to lose the game. Double crit just happens way more frequent. It's less bombistic than getting the OT. All the shenanigans, but I feel when you keep track of it, you can at least avert blunt force with a PG if you have it. That said, Brandgate OT is a triple crit technically, so I do not count it for this opinion. It falls under the same as getting double crit. Interesting. So pretty much what they're stating is they prefer over trigger over crit, getting double crit on pretty much essentially. And wow, this is definitely one of those topics that like everybody likes to bring up. It's like, do you prefer getting double critted or do you prefer to get over triggered? And my goodness, I will definitely say they're kind of the same thing. If you get double crit, it's kind of the same level as just getting over-triggered. The only major difference is that 100 million power. But the actual indicator of a loss is actually not too far different. If you say no guard to 2 crit and it pretty much kills you, it's the same way saying no guard and getting over-triggered on, to be honest. Of course, depending on the over-trigger, it can change factors a little bit, as there are some over-triggers that I feel like are a little bit more toxic than others. For example, the Cater Sanctuary one, it can literally, if it's the first attack, it will actually demolish you. However, as people have stated, say you whip out that over trigger early on, it practically does nothing, as if you don't have any rear guards, the skill just is a dead skill. Honestly, I feel like they both have extremely similar value. If I had to pick one over the other, I don't care. If I get crits, double crit, I'm gonna be probably just as sad as if I get over triggered on. All right, we have the reboot should have never happened. Ooh, the reboot. This is scary, but I've actually got this comment quite a few times, so I may have to skip a couple people that may have had that, but wow, I honestly agree. The reboot, this is coming from someone who joined during the reboot, and based off of seeing the cards and seeing just how much stuff has changed, honestly, I would have been perfectly fine if we didn't have a reboot and we just kept going with what we had. I can't say I disagree. The anime wasn't that great. The cards kind of were boring. Honestly, maybe a reboot wasn't necessary. They could have just made some adjustments, but they chose to reboot the game. And overall, I think that can negatively impact some things, as some people, especially now with the new reboot, with the Overdress reboot, some people don't like that. Some people actually, I've heard some people tell me that they literally stopped playing the game because it got an Overdress reboot. So honestly, it's kind of like, it's hard to say if it's good or not. I think the Overdress reboot was overall a better one, as it completely changed the game in a good and positive manner without over creeping everything like crazy, whereas the old reboot kind of, I feel like wasn't the nicest of reboots. We'll see, we still got a lot of time before we can make official assumptions. Derek Dow said, though I will give you guys a pretty straight up answer, he kind of gave a popular opinion and not an unpopular opinion, but just because he's a sweetie, I'll let him be in this. He says, if Neo Dao, Fenrir Loop, and Valkyrian Loop, Blade Master Loop, and Gastille, Brufus, and Songster Loop are banned, restricted, premium would see the healthiest format it has ever seen. No degeneracy, and Dex can play in multiple strides. There really isn't much to say to that, but yes. So thank you, Derek Dow, for that comment. Greg said, I don't play premium in the slightest. Whew. That's perfectly fine. You don't play premium? That's fine. I mean, some people don't enjoy the format, though. I'm not gonna lie, I gotta question your taste just a little bit. Man, you're kind of missing out. You're missing out on a ton of fun. Outside of the stuff that needs to get banned, premium is an extremely fun format, and while it's not for everybody, and it can be a little brain inducing, it is just such a joy. When you have a neck and neck game, it is such a pleasure to enjoy premium, and that's part of what I like about premium. But that's where I'll disagree with you with Greg, is that it's a lot more fun than it seems. But alas, I'm a good OuterOrange, and I totally understand if it's just not your thing. Randy, who says Genesis and V Premium is underrated and underrepresented. Is it though? We just had so much, at least in Premium we had a lot, but in V Premium I guess not as much. V Premium has been in this weird spot where people are just taking bits and pieces of Genesis and doing other things with it. But I would not say it's that underrepresented, as Astro Poets has been showing there has been Astro Poet deck lists, and there has been Astro Poet stuff, and then there's also been the Valkyrian end. There's just been some weird ones in the middle that people just don't know exists. Like Equip Gauges kind of had like a weird spot with them, though they are coming back with the CEO Young Diesel, I believe it's called, with the restating stuff, which just completely obliterates. But I can't see your point. Whereas while most people like see Genesis and V Premium, people tend to just look at it and go like, yeah, I'll go play Royals, or I'll go play Shadows, or I'll go play any other Force deck pretty much, or Force decks that just kind of feel more represented, definitely more noticeable and acknowledged than something, for example, like Spike Brothers. Crossbones Vanguard, they said, I just want them to stop doing random things to a clan, resulting them to not to work with everything else and proceed to never fix them ever again. Every time they do that, I'm just left like I wasted my money and I want to fling someone out the window. LOL, Leon. Thank you, Leon, for the comment. That was like a mini rant and a rant, and I'm gonna top on top of that rant. Oh my goodness, I 100% agree. Like need a second here. There's 7 Seas, which is in Grand Blue, and then there's Bermuda Triangle with their side budget stuff, and then there's like all the other budget decks that just aren't being represented. And I could just like, let me just start off with 7 Seas. They created this treasure marker. There's a treasure marker in 7 Seas, and like, are we gonna see that again? Is it ever gonna matter again? Is there a point to me building that entire 7 Seas deck if it literally has no representation in the future? Can I play it in Premium? Kinda not, because the treasure marker has to be hit in a certain way by a certain card. It's like, okay, well, well, cool and all, but why did I spend money on a deck that I can barely use? And same with Bermuda Triangle. They had Twinkle Melody recently, and they had about 7 or 8 different types of decks you can build. And then you had like Prism, which is like, you know, the top tier one. You had all the 3, the normal ones, Pacifica, Riviera, Coral, and then you had all these other decks that are probably not going to be represented again. And if they do, it's going to be hardly any representation. There is Orange. Is she going to get more support? I don't know. There's Laqueer, which is the weird order girl. Are she gonna get more representation? I don't know. Like there's that new card. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I'll have a picture somewhere right here. She lets you restand with the same number of cards. She also had the one swimsuit SP that nobody cares about. Mirror. I'm trying to make Mirror work, but it's really hard as she's a main phase type of card. It's just really hard to go into premium with her. It's just never gonna come back. I'm over here with my 7 Seas Grand Blue deck and I'm just crying a little bit. Am I ever gonna use this again? Rant over. Matt says, not all the ranked rewards and zeros should be meta clans. Under-supported clans need love too. 100% agree with this. I definitely think that there's some rewards that are just kind of being pushed aside and some triple Rs that could probably be represented more. Nuno says, V-Series meta from VBT06 to VBT08 was good. Okay, so just to give you guys a little brief explanation, he is talking about specifically the meta, so it's everything between that happened through those periods. So VBT06 was Phantasmal Steed, which is pretty much all the Shadow Paladin stuff. It was Shadow Paladin, Lukier, right? The Shadow Paladin, Lukier, and Murakumo and Pale Moon supports. This is pretty much this is the one where everything got pretty much banned. And as someone who went to regionals, I would almost agree with this if it wasn't for Hyuga. Like, I honestly am in complete agreement with you, at least with BT06, and even BT07 wasn't too terrible. The Infinity Cradle one, which is the one that had like Genesis and all the Astro Poet stuff coming out. And then we had VBT08, which is Silver Dust, which is where Kagero and Wing Choker started coming in. I have a love-hate relationship towards this opinion because I want to disagree with you as just a oh my god, but the power creep. But I also want to agree with you because in a way, the meta wasn't actually that terrible. But I don't know. But am I a little salty about how Hyuga was at the time? Just a little bit, just a teensy bit. But that's actually pretty unfair. That's actually a pretty unpopular opinion, as if most people really hated that set while they loved it. They loved it because Lukier came out. They hated it because just of how busted some stuff was to some people between Tachikaze, Lukier, and Hyuga just roaming around with Excel. Was the meta actually enjoyable? I can agree. It actually wasn't too terrible, but was it fun to play with competitively? No, not really. From Curly. So this is Curly Haired Hero. He says, I don't like how if it's only until like maybe set 18, he's speaking about Vanguard 0 by the way, where you actually see variance in deck building since there's really only one way to run a deck. Too many clans and too many effects that are xenophobic with other cards that discourage mix and match. He's pretty much saying that there's too many clans that are specific to an archetype. A good example is Angel Feather. You play Angel Feather and you have to play it with the Celestial type of deck or Revengers, or pretty much everything that's been coming out during Limit Break era is all about like, I have this name in this card so I can do this. I have Liberator with this so I could do that. And a lot of that makes it not as fun to be able to build with your other cards. You're kind of stuck in building with just like one archetype where you can't expand out on it. You can't be like, well, what if I want to mix my Liberator cards with some other stuff that's cool, like cards that aren't Liberators? You can't, because the minute you start throwing in unliberated cards in, it just doesn't work as smoothly. There is a couple exceptions, like some gold Ezels can actually work with it, but it's mainly for like non-lock mechanics. And whereas it would be cool to just be able to kind of clash the two and be able to build some unique decks. I feel like it does lower the creativity. So Curly brings up a good point about Vanguard 0, but it's just kind of how the era was at the time, kind of how things were happening. I think they were trying to I wasn't around during this era, so personal from an outsider point of view looking in, it just seems like they were trying to kind of keep things simple where people could just build decks and go in, but it's hard to deal with meta in that case because you can only build a deck a certain way and you can only go so far until you can't add the flexibility of other cards. Life is Rachel saying, putting me on the spot. Yes, I am. Yes, I am putting you on the spot. I think PGs and heals are useless with Glory, Maelstrom, Daikaiser, Sinbuster, Echo of Darkness, Noel, and Silent Time Around. LOL. Sweat face. Interesting. So they're pretty much saying that cards that nullify PGs and heals make PGs and heals useless. So a simple example is Silent Tom, which literally states, I don't care about PGs. If I hit your Vanguard, I hit your Vanguard, and good luck, I hope you heal. And then there's stuff like Noel, which literally states, you just don't heal if you or me are at 5 damage. And he's pretty much saying that because of that, it makes heals and PGs useless. I also have to disagree. And mainly because PGs and heals are useful overall, and with that mechanic being around, there has to be a way to go around those mechanics too. Eventually, you need some kind of, it makes the game evolve further if there are ways to go around certain cards. And while I want to let you know, we are currently in the very beginning of seeing more of that. You'll eventually start seeing that more and more clans will have these weird guard restricts and weird things. But running some type of way to guard restrict actually kind of lowers your deck's value in other cases. For example, Silent Tom is an 8k attacker. He literally needs a booster, pretty much everything on the planet for him to hit. On top of the fact that OTT does not have a way to retire. So you literally have to hope to God that that third attack, which will be Silent Tom, actually hits. And it won't always hit. And because of that, that's why that Sentinel restrict is on it. When it hits, you feel great. When you miss it, you cry a little bit. And you can't run 4 copies of it because it's an 8k and your deck's full. Noel is another good example. Like, yeah, you can run Noel, but that means you gotta run the whole package. You gotta run the right grade 1, you gotta run the grade 2, you gotta run the grade 4, you can't go pure Overlord. You have to actually sacrifice stuff to build it. And that's kind of what's fun, is that you can choose to make those decisions. Or Shadow, I guess it's Shadow, but it's with a Z, says, Gearoids should get a proper boss grade 3. Gear dragons are cool and all, but Bushi needs to give Gearoids some love. I don't know too much about Gearoids, but I'm assuming this is the same issue as we talked about in the past, where there are just certain decks that just aren't getting any appreciation. And I agree with you, sir. Bring Gearoids back. I don't know what they do, but bring them back. Dexcavate says, we need a real banhammer to fix both V and Premium. I think this is kind of a popular opinion and not so much an unpopular opinion. He's pretty much saying, ban Prison, ban the five greats in Premium, and yeah, everyone will be happy. And honestly, yeah, I agree with this. Yellow Card Vanguard says Vanguard didn't have to reboot after Gizes. So he's pretty much mentioning a similar comment to what Scary was saying, but he's being very specific. After Gize came out, there shouldn't have been a reboot, and we kind of already discussed this. I agree with you specifically for that reboot alone. I don't think a reboot should have happened. Going on to Zena, he has an opinion, but he mainly put an opinion down so you can see the comment section, but he says V on should have bounced triggers, completely fair and balanced. And he says, this is more of a shit take, but I don't care. I'm here to see others' opinions. I honestly think it would have been cool, and I've talked to him about this before. I think it'd be cool to see Anj be able to actually bounce triggers. However, I don't know how badly this would have impact Premium, as you could probably go around and find some kind of Anj deck to make that work really nicely in Premium. Hazel Senpai says, until the next big Premium ban list updates, deck innovation has taken a backstep to how to fight against the meta. I was very briefly around during the time of the meta before the Cyclone 2020 set came out, and it seemed pretty annoying back then with Gold Paladins and everything, and it's hard to say if the new meta is, more hard to build against versus the old meta. I think the new meta just got faster because of just Tempest Spheres existing and Zazonix existing and all that stuff. But I honestly think that it's not really a backpedal. I actually think Premium 2020, with the exception of like the big 5, is actually a really incredible set. And I think even the meta in it is incredible. It's just the stuff that's really hard to win against is just kind of busted. And I think that's the problem, but you can build around it. It's just a lot harder for some clans. I feel like that's the biggest issue, which I guess is kind of what you're getting at, is that it's really hard to build around Blade Master. Like, you really need a way to not get board wipes to play around Blade Master. I feel clans should just have more ways to stop loops as a whole, and I hope in the future we'll see better ways, both survivability and ways to stop loops where we don't have to like play 5 brain with ourselves to really figure out a way to stop loops. Now granted, will that make the meta worse? I really don't know, but hopefully that's something we'll see in the future. Sin Lucia says, the nations look a lot cooler than what clans originally looked like. Probably an opinion that a lot of people will agree with you on, to be honest with you, as the arts, the art upgraded, everything upgraded in nations versus clans. Like, all the art looks way better. You actually see like what the world looks like. When I was playing V Premium, the art wasn't really focused on what's going on. The art was more focused on, I have a boss unit, swing. See, like in nations, you actually see the background, you see the cards coming to life, you see kind of a lot happening. You actually feel like you're a part of the work. So I agree with you. Our Vision Asian Minute Girl says, keywords and archetypes are really not great in my opinion. When we're already restricted by clan, it just constricts creative deck building even more. It makes a bit more sense now that we have fewer nations to play with, but it still feels restricting. Interesting. I'm actually one of those people where I wish we would bring some archetypes back, like 7 Seas. I do agree that it adds on a lot less flexibility, but there does come a point where you do want archetypes in. So I actually think that we should have archetypes and flexibility. Like just kind of a good balance of both. I know that balance isn't quite there, and it's in some ways it is, and in some ways it's not. That have like a really hardcore restriction like equip gauges. You have to have equip gauges to do equip gagey things, and you are restricted to that type of skill, and you can't really do stuff. For some people, I think it's a good thing. They don't want to think through their deck too much. Some people like the linear road where you just build a deck and you play. You don't have to sit there playtesting for hours, making small adjustments to make the deck work. The deck will work regardless. Can you make it a little bit better? Yeah, but you don't have to break your brain to do it. Scarlet says, Gold Paladin really should not exist. His creation is unjustified both in lore and in the game. Oof, Gold Paladin should not exist. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of don't disagree with you. And this is kind of for someone who actually liked Gold Paladin. I think the repeats of certain clans is just kind of boring. Like, we could have just had Royal Paladins do that, and I don't disagree with you. I don't know the lore as much as other people do, but just from a standpoint of games, you play Royals and you play Golds, which is just better Royals, or you play Shadow Paladins, which is also better Royals, or you play OTT or just play Genesis, which is like better OTT. It's like there's all these extra clans that I feel like were just not necessary. We could have just threw it all into one big clan, and I feel like it would have been fine. Shadow Paladin's a little bit different, as it's like the evil versus the good type of thing. But like Gold Paladins, like did we really need all that extra stuff? Like we could have just made another archetype, called it Liberator, and boom. This is by Elix's. Premium elitists are some of the most toxic people I've interacted with. Just them being around makes me hesitant to pick up the format. Yikes. Who are these people that are downing on my man right here? Who are these people that are just making people scared of premium? Who are you? Don't scare people to play premium. If they want to play premium, they'll play premium. If they don't want to play premium, then they won't play premium. There's nothing wrong with not playing a format. By all means, I support to play premium. I suggest to try it out, but I'm not gonna bash your skull and say you have to play this format. If you don't want to play this format, don't play the format. But hell, if you are so addicted to premium and you're trying to get other people and bashing their skulls to play premium, don't do that. That's mean. That's not nice. No, I'm so sorry you had to go through that, and I hope that there will be people in the future that won't act like that. Jordan says, meta is just a popularity contest. Local results matter more than regional results due to the most locals being best 2 out of 3. Yikes. I don't know about that one. And the reason why I'm not too sure is because the biggest issue with meta is that there is such a small thought, people really don't put their thoughts out there. Like, they really don't say, hey, if you play this, you can beat this, and if you play that, you can beat this. But then suddenly at competitions and big regional things, it all just kind of comes out. It's like, oh yeah, you could use Cody the Ghost here, you could do this, or you could do that, or you could do this to stop this, and people start bringing it all out. I kind of wish people talked about, like, they don't have to, give away their deck profiles, but I wish people would talk about interactions more, just in general in premium. And V Premium doesn't need it as much, as the decks are a little bit more straightforward, but in premium, people really don't talk about their brainstorming that much, and it's really sad to see, because I think if people did talk about their brainstorming more, I feel like this opinion wouldn't exist, because then it would be a little bit more balanced, because people going into regionals and stuff like that would be similar in terms of understanding of the game as people that go into locals. But I don't know if I agree with the fact that locals are better competitively speaking, because from locals anyone can come. I could bring my tier 5 deck and try to beat people. And what if other people are bringing tier 5 decks and I'm beating all those people, and here's my tier 5 deck that looks like a tier 1 but it's actually a tier 5 deck? Like, it's really hard to justify a locals tournament unless every single person in there is both experienced and bringing really solid decks that actually deserve to be a part of meta. Ura says, Mega Colony is awesome. B-Series isn't that bad. I like nation condensing. Also, golds are amazing too and not useless. And finally, shadows are overrated in both the physical game game and 0. Every goddamn match is Revengers. Wow, there's a lot of hot takes in one. We kind of talked about the other ones, so I'll go to the Mega Colony one. I'm glad there's someone out there enjoying Mega Colony, because there's sure as heck a lot of people out there that are not enjoying Mega Colony. There's a lot of people that just completely forgot that clan existed. So thank you to you for enjoying Mega Colony. Hazes says Gallup V Series would have been a gold deck if it got properly supported. I believe it. So that's the DP deck that just got completely like pushed aside. It was one of the cheapest decks to build at the time. It's just this mega crit type of thing you can do, and unfortunately the support just did not hit that off. I actually have my Gallup cards because I want to play test it. Super Glass Cannon, if you want to try it out, it's pretty fun, but yeah, you kind of get wrecked on. It's sad but true. Sylvian Horned Beast says, V Premium Kagero players, Blade Master isn't broken. Premium Kagero players, stand trigger, restand the vision token. 10 restands later, I won through skill and determination. That's fair. I think he just wanted to state his opinion. I wouldn't really say it's a hot take or anything. I think it's just a straight fact, because that's not wrong. You play V Premium Blade Master, it's pretty mid. You play it in premium and you're like, bum ba bum, I restood again, bum ba bum, I restood again, bum ba bum, here I go again. Oh, and it's 2 crit each time. I don't know if anyone's really saying it takes skill and determination or anything like that. It's definitely true. What he says is true. James Kelly, not seeing a single noble or vampire in overdress is concerning. Also, bring back Shakharot Vampire. He is a bloody immortal. He's bloody immortal, so the time jump shouldn't affect him. That's actually pretty interesting. We might see him again with an encounter card in the future, like a far future, a year from now, not a half year or soon, but in the future. We might actually see it, who knows? Considering he doesn't die like James Kelly is trying to tell us, then maybe we will see him. Maybe we'll see Night Rose too. She's a vampire as well. But also, vampires are coming soon, at least in Bermuda Triangle. So yeah, we are getting more vampires. So hopefully your vampire binge, your vampire desires will come and help you in your overdressed journeys. The one overlord says V is not currently and never has been a low skill format. If you were asking me this between the first and the second year going into end of 2020, I would highly disagree with you. However, at the current state of the game, with the V collection and everything, I do think it takes a little bit more skill. Do I think Premium takes more skill? Yes, I do. But do I think V Premium takes completely low skill? No, not really. But is it easier to get into? Yes. Addix Kane said Boboline is B tier. I hope we're talking about the same card. Like, I don't think it's B tier. Are you okay? It's not. It's a card that in the future can be useful. It replenishes soul with counter charges. Like, it doesn't have power, but it's not that bad. Robert Waters says, even with the big 6 causing problems in premium format, I enjoy where premium is at. Oh, hallelujah to you. I'm so happy that you're willing to enjoy premium even with the stuff. You don't hear this enough. Soul Cage. Resist was a mistake. Dang, I disagree with this. I disagree with this so hard. I disagree. I don't know how bad it was back in the day of Resist, because you know everything got Resist, but no, it needed to happen. It needed to happen. We need Resist. I disagree with this. There are some things that just you need to stop. Rhino that says, I think over triggers are a good addition to the game. Can they just wipe out a possible final turn? Yes, but at the same time it can quickly turn the tides of a fight either for or against you. Definitely speaks some truth in this. There are situations where you just get screwed over in those negative impactful situations where you only think about that one time you got over triggered on when you could have won if you just didn't get over triggered on. But if you think about it, you can be in a losing situation and then over trigger and be in a winning situation. And I think that tempo and balance is fun. I'm not saying it's good in terms of like competitively speaking, but it's fun. First M8N8 says, the cards and text are too small and there isn't nearly enough content online dedicated to teaching new players how to actually play the game. Say it louder for the people in the back. I 100% agree with this. I do 100% agree that there's just not enough stuff for new players. As a new player from 2 years ago, it was really hard. I had to really dig for some stuff. As for the text, I don't think it's too bad. Maybe for you, but Yukio's worse. Agus MK2 says, instead of testing all clans' skill in Bermuda like VEB15, I wish they actually put those skills back to clan. I will hate Sistico forever for not being a Mega Colony unit. I don't know how Bermuda is, but I do agree Sistico would have been a cool card in Mega Colony. Sistico is I believe she's an on place. You make something not stand for a turn. Next time they would stand, they just don't stand. Just a really awkward card. Unfortunately, nobody really uses it either. It's not very well. So yeah, I probably would have had more use in Mega Colony. Here comes one of my favorites, Yazahana. There are too many dragons in this game. If I see one more dragon outside of Dragon Empire, I'm gonna be sick. I love this. I love this hot take. There are too many dragons. I don't really fully disagree, as I'm not a big dragon person, but I also don't care enough to like go out there and like make it my hot take. So props to you, man, for going that crazy on dragons. Casey Alex says Ellie, Anj, and Kirk are completely fine in 2021. They should come back unrestricted. Ooh, that's a tough one. I hear Kirk is pretty rough. I heard Anj was pretty rough. Now, are we at that point? Are we at that state where we can bring them back? I don't know. I think that's a Bushi thing. If they bring it back, then yeah, maybe it's healthy to bring it back. But is it healthy right now? Like, do we want it back? Heard, and people have explained to me kind of how the stuff works, and you can just guard everything. So sounds kind of busted. I don't know if we want that back, but you want it back, so who knows? John Lebron says that 3 formats in Bushiroad will die if Bushiroad doesn't start nuking Premium's big dog deck. V Premium needs to be checked as well, and standard, while that's something that has to wait, but I'll play all 3 formats if they were checked. It's not fun dying at grade 2 and nothing you can do. I really agree that probably one of the worst things about Vanguard is when you're on grade 2, haven't even rode your grade 3 yet, and you just die. It is one of the worst feelings. It literally makes you just not want to play the game. And from that point of view, I do agree that nuking some stuff would probably help. But it's very possible that while you nuke that, other stuff will come back. But maybe slowing down the format would probably help some people in Premium. As for V-Premium, I think a nuke is needed for specifically Prism. Maybe Gabriel, because OTK is kind of rough. I do agree that it could kill off a format if they don't properly ban things. I think V-Premium is the biggest culprit for this. V-Premium can be killed off so much faster if things are checked enough, as people don't want to play the same format of just torture for a year. If there's a deck that's just dominating all the rest, people are not going to want to play it. They're just not going to want to play it, and eventually people will just stop playing V Premium. Xenoblade Fanboy says V-Series was a 3-year filler arc that downgraded the game mechanically to the point where playing was a sleep-inducing. Also, Shizuku is unequivocally the best PT girl. Props to Shizuku for being best Bermuda girl. I think 2020 is what really makes that statement like super true, as it really downgraded the playstyle of some decks. I don't know if it's like a true filler arc, but it feels like a filler arc, so can't agree. G bad. I disagree with you. I think G era made things a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. Strides are cool, but I don't know if you're talking about the anime, if you're talking about the cards, if you're talking about the G mechanic. I don't really know exactly what you're getting at, but regardless, I disagree with you. Aru-chan says, I actually think Bermuda getting their own special set is actually good because it means I know when to skip a set. Seriously, the BT concept is something I love, but not the art of it. Interesting. I will agree with you that the art in Bermuda Triangle is not always good. I will also agree that it being once a year isn't that bad. I personally think it's perfectly fine that it being once a year. Everyone else will disagree with me because everyone thinks that it should just not exist, apparently, that entire, because of waifus and idols, and people just don't like that stuff. So not enough robots by Universe. Well, I'll hand that off. I'll hand that one off to Different Fight. He likes his robos. He can go on a whole rant for you guys about that. Shade says, being forced to run 16 triggers limits deck's design and space creativity amongst players. Imagine the possibilities without automatically having 16 of your 50 cards be dedicated to cards that may not help and achieve your winning board combo. There's a reason why we have 16 triggers. It's for the games to go like this. You don't want games going into overtime. You don't want games going past 50 minutes. So you kind of need those 16 slots for triggers, as it means that the game will go faster as triggers accelerate games. However, I do agree with you for deck design purposes, it just make it hard. Maybe, I don't know if lowering the number will help that though. For games to just go faster, I do think triggers are necessary, and I think at 16 is not too bad. It's about a third. Who knows? Toyo says, none of the unit designs from pre-G are very interesting, especially not the more popular ones. Dragonic Overlord, Phantom Blaster Dragon, etc. I actually 100% agree with this opinion, and it's like, it's so true, it's not even funny. Like the only units that seemed kind of cool pre-G was like literally Amaterasu from OTT. And maybe like Minerva. LVI Warwisian says, Vanguard If, or whatever it was called, sucked. It seriously was why I stopped playing, since I liked watching the newer cards in action and learning about how to use them in the anime. I don't think people disagree with you. I agree with you. Vanguard If was kind of bad. And this is coming from someone who loves Magical Girl animes. But it literally just felt like a side arc of just like boredom. Franz Borden says, Leonard deserves to be banned. OTs aren't fun or or add any positivity to D. Current V is the best it's ever been. Premium becomes the best current format once the current top decks get hit. We've seen this kind of take before. OTs aren't fun or add any positivity. I disagree with that. I think casually over triggers are perfectly fine. I'm sorry that they're not positive for you. I think casually they're perfectly fine. Competitively they're kind of rough, but casually, over triggers are fun. You hit those and you're like, yes! Scarlet's Lucas Javier says, we need more cards like Prism Duo cards. Cards that belong to more than one Bermuda. Bermuda has so many archetypes that when you only play one or two, it's hard to get what you want in the booster box. Also, I agree, bring back Duo. This is my all-time favorite deck and my first deck. Yes! Bring back Duos! Please, please bring back Duos. It's such a dead archetype. This person slams dunk on the bullseye. There are so many archetypes, but there's only so much you can really build for, and some of the archetypes don't get support. I'm fine. This game doesn't need to cling to nostalgia so hard, says Non2. I completely agree with this. I actually had a whole conversation with someone earlier. My goodness, people get so caught up with nostalgia that they get too attached to their cards, and I don't think that's a good thing, but I think nostalgia is necessary for people to keep coming back to the game, and for even a collector's point of view. If you make Overlord like a super nostalgic card, just something you're always going to go back to, that Overlord is going to have value. It's going to have like a card collector's value, and I think that's very important. It's kind of the same way how in Pokemon is Pikachu. In Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a Dark Magician. Like, you have these units that you just never forget, because no matter how many years pass, you will always remember that one unit. And I think in that case, nostalgia is necessary. Here's another one going the opposite way. Vanguard Wonder, nostalgia baiting isn't bad. I agree. Frost says Lock is broken. I don't think Lock's broken. Can it become strong? Probably, but not enough people play it, and not enough people care to play it. And honestly, I think it's a perfectly fine spot. I think it used to be pretty busted, but now there's just so many ways to go around it. I don't think it's that bad. Some people just don't like having a whole rear guard gone, and I can totally understand that. Haiba says, keep legacy support on legacy's formats and let Dragonic Overlord get some damn sleep already. Damn, the nostalgia comments. People just don't want to see it. It's so funny. I personally think that seeing Overlord again is perfectly fine. I think seeing Blaster Dark again is perfectly fine. Even Phantasmic Dragon. And this is coming from someone that literally stated earlier that I'm not crazy about the art. I think them bringing it back is important. As I mentioned, makes people want to play the game again. Like, there might be an Overlord player from like 10 years ago that has literally not played the game since, and then they see this new Overlord come out in Overdress, and they're like, oh my god, I used to play that. I'm gonna get back into Overdress. That's why they do it, guys. They like bringing back old people. They like bringing back people that play Overlord. Like, it's not really fair to just kill off Overlord for forever, especially when it's literally the image of the game. Blaster Blade and Overlord are the literal images of the game. They're always gonna be coming back because it's the staple of what Aichi and Kai represent. It is the beginning of Vanguard. It is where Vanguard started. You can't expect it to die. It's like people that say like Overlord should sleep, that's like saying Pikachu just shouldn't exist. Like, Pikachu exists in Pokemon, why can't Overlord exist in Vanguard? Zorga is a wannabe Dark Magician for Vanguard. Are you Fox? Are you serious right now? He's not a wannabe. He's cool. And last but not least, the final take. Golden Prini said, okay, here's my unpopular opinion, and I know people will bash me. Omega Lock should be a sticky version of Lock, where I mean is that there's a way to unlock it. The Omega Lock should take 2 instead of 1. Personally, I've been trying out the Omega Lock stuff recently, and it does feel really bad. I do think that there should be like an extra way to make it better, but honestly, that's kind of like the shaky ground, because I think it would just be like busted too, because you don't want to completely just obliterate your opponent. Also, like, resist exists and all this other stuff, so it's kind of hard to say if, you know, getting rid of 2 would help it too much. And that is our Get Triggered hot takes. Dun dun dun, we're done. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was a lot of fun, a lot of great comments. I love the positivity from all of you guys. There's just so many things that you guys said. I wasn't even expecting to get as many comments as I did. And my goodness, it took me a while to get through some of these. I'm sorry if your comment didn't make it in here. It's just because it's already been an hour and a half of me recording, of me going through all possible comments. If I saw a comment twice, I probably didn't say it again just to kind of keep the differences between. So I'm so sorry if you made a comment and it didn't make it. Hopefully in the future you make another comment that'll make it, because we will be bringing the Get Triggers back in the future. But other than that, guys, it's been real. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you had fun with my opinions and what other people have to say. And I'll see you guys in another video in the future. So peace out, das vidanya, and I'll see you guys in the future. Bye!